Perfect.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Lexie.
And thank you everyone for your time this evening. It's a great pleasure to present Beyond the Surface by Street Level Studio. So I'm going to share a little, you've already heard me explain that we're a marketing agency. So I won't go any further into that other than to say, we got into wall covering because one of our clients is Canon large format printers. And these are the people that make the $1 million print machines that print wall covering, banners, street signs, and alike. So for over 20 years, we've been making wall covering for Canon, as you can see here in this trade booth display, to show the quality of their inkjet printing. And after 20 years of doing this, Tanya, our owner, said, you know, this is for the birds. We should be doing something with this talent and expertise that we've honed over so many years. So that's when we created Beyond the Surface. And it's been very successful for us and since it started at the end of 2019, so just 2 years old. We've won 3 notable awards for our designs. A Hermes Platinum Award, a Hermes Gold Award, as well as the ASID Illinois Design Excellence Award for custom textiles, which we just won a couple of months ago. So one of the things that we have come to learn over this time is that the #1 interior design demand truly is personalization. And that couldn't be more apparent in this day and age when so many people are staying home. It's the conversation I hear again and again, how to make something not only customized, but personalized that resonates with the homeowner or business owner if you're working on something that's commercial. And the great thing about Beyond the Surface is that your opportunities for creativity is boundless. We could put anything onto a wall covering paper, including unconventional patterns, high resolution photographic images, which I'll show you one in just a moment, either non-repeating or repeating patterns, full-scale murals, anything that you would like on a ceiling. So it doesn't have to be a wall only. It could be the ceiling, it could be the floor. I had somebody ask me recently if I could create wall covering that could go on the space between stairs on a staircase. And the answer is, of course. So where is Beyond the Surface applicable? Really anywhere. And that's why we appeal to the interior designer, because the creativity is truly unlimited and the application is also unlimited. We really rely on our interior design partners' expertise and industry knowledge and ability to hone in the creativity to create something magnificent for the client. We find that the homeowner has an idea, but has difficulty really visualizing it and verbalizing it, whereas the interior designer, as our partners, have that skill and ability. And it's a wonderful relationship for us. So we did a little bit of homework and we've come to realize that the wallpaper industry is growing tremendously. In fact, the 2023 forecast to be a $7.5 billion industry, which is just phenomenal. And York Wall Covering, who you may know, one of the larger wall covering companies, says that Google searches for wall covering over the last 12 months is up 50%. So homeowners are seeking it, and the application of it is growing tremendously. And then we went ahead and we talked to a few interior designers in our area, and all of our research seemed to pay off because they too agree that wall covering is hotter than ever. And particularly now, if anybody here is working with Biophilic Design, wall covering seems to readily meet that demand of Biophilic Design. I just did a presentation on it actually with Sherwin-Williams about a month and a half ago, and I'm going a little off topic. about Biophilic Design for their new CEU, wellness design in the home, and how paint colors as well as wall covering really help meet that just design criteria. Just an aside. So beyond the surface, what makes us so special is, I can't emphasize it enough, but we really are a truly customized and personalized wall covering product, making a one-of-a-kind wall covering for our clients. And that means that what a client is requesting or what a client needs is really a masterpiece in and of itself. Nobody else will have what they have in their home. It will be completely unique to them. We have over 35 years of experience. Our business has been in the industry 35 years. Again, we're members of ASID and of course here IDS, and we truly enjoy our memberships and our relationships with the associations. We have top-notch surface and visual designers in-house. We can print on a multitude of substrates, and if we get on the topic of substrates, I believe I have a sample book over there that I could show you. And we can do matte gloss finish, et cetera, et cetera. So our process is really simple, and one of the benefits of Beyond the Surface is that it's pretty immediate. Once we do have the opportunity for collaboration and ideation and truly understand what your design vision is, we take that and we start to design digitally what the expectation is, and we collaborate with our interior designers. So we share with you what we're designing, and if there are any tweaks either with the design itself or the colorway, we do that collaboratively. We can do it virtually. That's not a problem because it's all digital artistry. Once we have a design that we feel is the right one, we print a 2x2 sample of it. We ship it out to you so you can actually see what it is and have it in hand. With that approval, we print it and then we ship. And once it gets there, your installer installs. If there's any need for installation specifications, we can provide that. But typically, for installation, all of our panels are clearly marked as to which panel goes where in a room. And we also provide a virtual room rendering. So you can see exactly how this wall covering is going to look and be laid out in a room. It's a lot of fun. In fact, I'll tell you, we just finished a wall covering last week for somebody here locally, and she wanted her vestibule wall, one wall in her vestibule to be done. And we're like, no problem, we can do this. We talked about it, we designed it, and I said, you know, make sure you send me a picture of that vestibule, and she did. And I'm so happy she did because she had a bench, she had a mirror, and she had a welcome home sign. And I thought, wait a minute. We have all of these elements on this wall covering that are going to be covered by the bench, the mirror, and the welcome home sign. We now need to take this design and manipulate it around these elements so there's continuity and the design actually makes sense. And we have to be considerate of the fact that what if one day she doesn't want the mirror or she doesn't want the welcome home sign? Will it look awkward? So we took that opportunity to redesign it, share back a virtual rendering, and it turned out beautifully. She was so excited. So that's just a little bit about our process. We print here locally. No surprise, we print here with a partner who has a Canon inkjet printer, top of the line. Of course, Canon's one of our clients. I'm sure you didn't expect me to say another printer. And the nice part about using the Canon printer is that obviously not only is it state-of-the-art technology, but we can get precise panel-to-panel matching. So when we're running this wall covering, there's no inconsistency in the colors across the space. And the colors come out crisp. We can do, again, matte or gloss ink. various different substrates, and we can also do either permanent adhesive with the paste, or we could do repositionable, which is basically like a sticker peel back, and it's wall covering that we can be placed on the wall, and if for a temporary application, and it can be taken out over a period of time, reapplied to the backing, and be used at a later date if so desired. And safe, eco-friendly, UL Green Guard Gold certified. Any questions so far?
Nothing in the chat box, Lexie. You beat me to the punch because I was going to ask about the adhesives. Sarah says in the chat box, do you offer the adhesives as well?
Yes, that adhesive substrate, yes, that is a paper that we can absolutely print on. Hopefully that answers Sarah's question. Okay, so I'm going to take.
Thank you. Oh, no, all good, all good.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to take you into the exciting part of the presentation, which is the samples of our work. So this here is our chinoiserie magpie. This beauty is an award winner twice. This one won the Hermes Platinum Award, as well as the ASID Design Excellence Award for Custom Textiles this year. And you're going to look at this and you're going to think, Lexie, it's a repeating pattern, but in fact, it's not. This was specifically done for the Lake Forest Show House, which is north of Chicago, so a local project for us. We were invited by an interior and remodeling design partner to create this wall covering, and there's Sherwin-Williams paint in the room. So when we created this wall covering, we took into consideration a few factors, and they are, one, the Sherwin-Williams paint. So we wanted to make sure that we color matched the black and the blue that you'll see on the cabinetry and on the windows. So it looked really sharp. The other thing too is our client wanted to have a wall covering that resonated with Chinese mythology of the magpie, which signifies serenity and peace. So that's why we chose to do the wall covering in this manner, and it's called the chinoiserie magpie. And it's a mural. So we placed the birds. The birds are not all the same, they're different. And we placed them interspersed throughout the room to make it appear as if they are actually fluttering. And we placed them around all of the other attributes of the room, like the window and the door and the picture, and also the armoire on the right, or the cabinetry. So there was never a bird that was interrupted, and that it looked like they were floating, and that you were in on plein air, in an outdoor environment. And as you can see here, with a little bit more detail on some of these birds, it took 10,000 digital brush strokes. So can you imagine doing this on your computer? 10,000 strokes, stroke, stroke, stroke. Can you count to 10,000? I certainly can't. But it took that many brush strokes to create each bird. And the reason being is to create the airy and fluffiness that you see, for example, on the belly of these birds, and make them have an element of realism to them. This is another sample of a wall covering that we've done. It's our jungle theme. And you're going to say, Lexie, this doesn't look complete. And you're right, it's not complete. What we do is we take the wall covering and we lay it out flat like this. And we start to play with the elements of this jungle theme. Where is the panther going to go? Does this tree belong here? Does the tree stay like that? Is there something that's going to be over it or next to it? How is it going to flow? And when we lay it flat like this, that's how we're able to lay it out in a room environment to see exactly how this would look in a room. And then you can see here in this dining room what actually was the finished product for this jungle scene. One of the nice things too about the custom wall covering is that we can print up to the full width of a roll. So typically a roll is 54 inches. We like to have a little bit of a margin on either side for error. So we can print up to 52 inches. So when you have a large wall such as this, there aren't a multitude of seams. There's just a few seams, and it makes a cleaner look. With that being said, if we're working with something that's a very narrow space and a confined space, we can also print something that's very small, and we can design to something that's small as well. So we have
Lexie,
that sort of flexibility. Whereas if you're dealing with normally with a roll of wallpaper that you're purchasing as is, you're cutting wherever the pattern may be. You don't have that full control, that design control to say, oh my gosh, this is going to look totally awkward that we're cutting this pattern in this part and there's leftover of design on the edge. You don't have that flexibility. You're beholden to what the roll can provide. With a custom wall covering, you have full flexibility and design control.
hey, Lexie, I have a quick question. Since you're speaking about the size limitations, is there height limitation?
Really, height is based on however long the roll is. So I don't know how long is a roll. It almost seems endless. So really, there aren't that height restrictions. No.
So when you're probably going to answer this. So when it's printed on a roll, like in the room that we're looking at, like a 10-foot ceiling, the roll may be let's call it 30-foot long. Does the pattern end at a certain point on the roll? Is the roll printed to the length of the pattern?
Yes, the roll is printed to the length of the pattern. So then we would cut the roll.
Okay.
So the roll is not pre-printed. It is printed to spec.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
So if you wanted to print this much, we'd cut that much off the roll.
Oh yeah.
And we
Like you were talking about
the
your
roll
staircase.
for another day.
Like your stair risers.
I don't know what that is, but that sounds good.
Oh, that was the front of the staircase. You mentioned.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly right.
Thanks, Lexie.
Oh, that's funny. So you're going to probably ask me about the width of this one too, but believe it or not, this is a ceiling that we did last year. Oh, heavens. Hang on. It's going the wrong way. Oh, let me bring it back. All right. I'm going to leave it like this before it runs away on me. But anyhow, this ceiling we did last year, it is a gold leaf-like ceiling. So this client came to us and she said, look, I have a Philip Jeffries wall covering that I really like. And it looked great in the magazine. I ordered a sample and it's nothing like what it shows in the magazine. And so she was really disappointed and she had a sincere design challenge. She really wanted gold leaf. The Philip Jeffries wall covering was also extremely expensive, which made it cost prohibitive. So we said, look, what we'll do is we'll design a gold leaf-like wall covering. It'll be a fraction of the price of the Philip Jeffries because it was super premium pricing. And we'll put it on the ceiling with one seam. And that's exactly what we did. Now, if you think creating something that shimmers on a ceiling is easy to do, I'm here to tell you that it's not. It took us 3 efforts to try and make this wall covering shimmer, and we finally got it done. The first 2 efforts, when we put the wall covering on the ceiling, well, let me put it to you this way. When we had it in our hands, it popped and shimmered and it was gorgeous. When we put it on the ceiling, it looked like cardboard paper. Due to the mere fact that color refraction is different on the ceiling than it is on the wall or on the floor or simply in your hand. So the light was behaving differently in the ceiling. So what we ended up doing is we ordered a specialty paper that had opalescence ingrained in the paper. So the paper alone looked like opal. It shimmered like opal. I mean, it was dazzling. And then we did a 90% overlay of color. We designed each 4-inch tile here. So these are 4x4 tiles, which is typically what gold leaf would be, 4x4. We designed each differently to create dimension to it. And then we ran a 90% opacity over the opalescent wall covering paper. And it turned out to be magnificent with the appropriate amount of shimmer on the ceiling. The client was absolutely thrilled. Isn't that fun?
That is beautiful.
Thank you. Well, let's see, how am I going to get this to progress now that I did what I did? I have to bring this back. Okay. So this is an example of a client that had their favorite plates. We scanned these plates. So we actually scanned the image of these plates and we created a wall covering out of it. So instead of having a china cabinet, they had a china wallpaper in this dining room. This one everybody loves. This is the owner of our company's grandmother as well as great aunt's recipes. She had them all in, the Rolodex from the 1970s, the little box with the index cards. She had them all in there and she didn't want them to go to waste. And she always wanted to feel like she had them around her. So we created this wall covering for her kitchen. And each one is a different recipe, one of the favorite recipes, again, from her grandmother and great aunt. So it's a wonderful feeling that you're cooking with family. Another example here of matte finish, creating that antique look with these cameras. And then this is an example of repositionable, thinking that perhaps in a few years, Jonathan Eli Smith, his bedroom will have different wall covering or it'll have a different feel. So the nice thing again about repositionable is that you can certainly peel it off the wall and save it for another time. This is at a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, obviously. This is, believe it or not, stock photography. So we took a high resolution stock photography and this client wanted an Italian scene, street scene. And so we took the picture and we scaled it and refined it and scrubbed it and cleaned it so it was still crisp, and had to do that multiple times in order to get it to scale to the size of this wall and still be clean and crisp. So it took some digital artistry to help clean up the image so it wasn't all pixelated, to make this look like they were immersed into an Italian street scene. It's pretty cool. This wall covering won a Hermes Gold Award. And then obviously it's an example of branding. So anybody who has a client that is looking for any branding in their office space or retail, obviously we can do that too. It's not all residential, commercial applies. And then a final sample I have for you here is this client really liked cogs and wheels. Took a sample of them here on the left and made the iteration into a wall covering for an office.
Hey, Lexie, we have a couple questions in the chat box.
Super.
One from Eleanor about, does the photography need to be high res to start with?
It really depends, Eleanor, on how big of a wall you'd like to do and how much we have to scale the photo. High resolution really does help, but if it's a huge wall like the one we saw in the Italian restaurant, it really does need to be high resolution. But if it's something a little bit smaller, there's the opportunity that we could work with that too. But we may have to do a little bit more digital cleanup to it.
There's another question that I'm hoping maybe you can wrap up with from Sarah about the Eco-Friendly Story. And part of the reason I'm hoping maybe you can wrap up with that is because I'd like to hear more about um, the process and, for example, things that are front of mind, like how long the process takes and what it costs.
Yeah, absolutely. I have that part right here. And I think I actually even started with how long it takes, and I got so enthralled with my own thought process, I forgot to circle around to it. So thank you for prompting me on that. The nice thing about it is that it only takes 2 weeks for concepting, typically, unless we have something that we're collaborating on further that requires more work, and that sometimes happens, and that's not a big deal. So typically we allow, again, 2 weeks for collaboration. To get a 2x2 sample and send it out shouldn't take more than a week. If it's approved, there's a week for printing, and we're shipping it right away. So typically about 4 weeks. If we've had several people ask us about our chinoiserie magpie, that's a design we already have. They want it in their homes. So for that, it's a lot quicker because it's a design we have, and we're happy to accommodate anybody who would like that design. Also, I believe that you had asked me before, or asked me to make mention about where the paper comes from.
Yes, thank you.
We typically source the paper from 2 paper manufacturers. One is up in Neenah, Wisconsin, and they're called, appropriately so, Neenah Paper. And the other is Dreamscape, which is out of New Jersey. And Dreamscape is a great partner. They are the ones that have some fantastic special effects paper. And with the special effects, I mean the opalescent paper I was speaking of. They have paper that's a gold flash paper, a silver flash, bronze flash. I mean, my gosh, the substrates that you can start with are almost unlimited. It's just exciting. And then if you put a color overlay on it or on portions of it, you can really make something phenomenal. Pricing. So this is an example of pricing for a 6x8 wall, 48 square feet of the family recipes, typically about $35 per square foot. Depending, could be a little bit less. And that includes any concepting or design, which is that collaborative process that I spoke of. And then the actual design execution, the virtual room rendering where we lay the wall covering in the room that you provide a photo to us to make sure that it's the right design and that it fits and that fits visually in that space. The setup fee to send over to the printer, we include the printing costs, of course, the paper costs, the 2x2 sample, of course. The only thing that's not included is tax and shipping, and then the installation, assuming that you would use an installer that you prefer.
Awesome, thank you. I do have another question from Eleanor. Are these paper patterns that you've shown us, are they up on the website? Or does the website show all of the paper options? And maybe I'm interpreting Eleanor's question incorrectly. Maybe she's referring to the paper from your suppliers.
Paper from our suppliers, no, they're not. It's not up on the website. However, I can send that to you, Eleanor, if you'd like, so you can see what I'm speaking of. Our designs and works that you see here, most of them are on our website, which I can put our website in the chat. And then I think I answered both questions, right?
Yes, yeah, okay. Definitely. Or I think so.
Yes. And then I also want to make mention that there isn't a program that we're running with our interior design partners based on the size of the project, and that there would be a rebate to the designer on the project.
That's phenomenal. So but there are two questions in the chat box that are very similar. The two questions that are very similar from Sarah and Eleanor. How simple is it for a contractor to install as far as meeting up seams, adhesive application? And then in other words, is there anything the installer should know that's different from a typical wallpaper installation?
Okay, so Eleanor, you've got some wonderful questions, and thank you for asking them. You get the gold star for tonight, that is for sure. And the reason why those are such great questions, because you're right. With some of the specialty papers, as you've heard me make mention, they're typically a heavier paper. As you can imagine, when they've got the add-on of the opalescent or like a prism or et cetera, they tend to be a little bit more heavy. And if we're printing up to 52 inches on a roll, that makes the paper really heavy and difficult to handle. So if we're doing something of that complexity and of that size, I would say an installer who has that kind of experience would be critical. Now, if we're using a normal matte paper or a vinyl paper, a vinyl, or a repositionable, just a standard paper, not necessary. It doesn't carry that weight. Any installer can put it in. We've worked locally here with a few installers, not an issue. And we also mark all of the panels for the installers. So it is literally installed by numbers. And they're very clear. So for example, the wall covering that we delivered for the client last week, it was written, it was 2 panels. It was clearly written on each panel, number 1, number 2, this one goes on the left, this one goes on, I mean, the instructions went all the way around the panel. If somebody got them backwards, heaven help them, because it couldn't be any more clear on the extra space on the print, on the white stuff that ends up getting trimmed, exactly what panel goes where. And then of course we have the room rendering for any points of clarification.
That's perfect. Thanks, Lexie.
Yes, and to answer Sarah's question about do the adhesives meet the eco-friendly story? And that's a great question. And that's really based on the paper manufacturer's specs. And for each manufacturer, it would be different. And if that was a requirement, then we would make sure we get those specs from them and share it with the designer before we go with that product.
We are, our call today, our audience is out of the Seattle area, Washington State, more generally speaking. Are there installers in our area that you can recommend?
I could do some homework and recommend them. I wouldn't find that to be a challenge. I have not worked with any in Seattle personally, but I could assist in helping source that.
That would be phenomenal. And again, that question came from Eleanor. So credit where credit is due.
Eleanor, call me. You got a project? Call me.
I would love to share that information, the recommended installers with our IDS membership for sure.
Sure. Let me take a note of that. Okay. Got it. Any other questions? Is there anything that I missed?
Nothing that I've noticed.
Excellent. Well, I guess that leaves me to say thank you, everybody, for your time this evening.
Ooh, we have one more question that is really, really great. Can the designer copyright the design?
Oh yeah, I assume you can. Sure, why not?
Well, that was an easy answer.
Yeah, you would have to go through the legal process.
So the design wouldn't be owned by Beyond the Surface or Street Level Studio. It would be the designer's own.
We could, yeah, we could work that out. Sure, that's not a problem.
I think that's fantastic. I love
Yeah.
that.
I mean, because it is truly bespoke, and if you felt like there was a particular attachment to a wall covering where you wanted to covet it as unique, as I explained earlier, I don't see how that would be a problem. It's our
That's right.
task and duty to continue to create, and create one of a kind. So
Awesome. Lexie, thank you.